Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Kaia. I'm a marketing manager at GKIM Digital and your host for today. I'm very excited to see so many entrepreneurs interested in our webinar, which is on how to stop wasting time and money on technology. We'd love to hear from you, so you can send your questions all the time during the webinar in the public chat, which is on the right side of your screen, or below the video on the mobile version. So today's session will be around 25 minutes long, plus 15 minutes for a Q&A session after the presentation. So hi, Tom. Hi, guys. And now I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Ian Morrison. He's a digital business architect, great expert in technology and business with 30 years of experience in digital innovation. I had the pleasure to work with Ian and see how he partners up with entrepreneurs and businesses from all over the world. And I must say, with all his experience, he makes an excellent speaker for today's subject. So thank you all for joining and welcome. So Ian, how are you? You ready?
I am very fine, thank you very much. It's late at night here in Vietnam. Maybe you can maybe see outside, and so maybe run a little poll later, ask if you think I'm drinking coffee or whiskey here at night. But very excited to share ideas. Very excited to meet or to get in touch with a whole bunch of my old friends over this here webinar. Let's see how it goes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and yeah, let's begin.
Okay, let's give it a go. Hopefully everything works out well. So I want to share some ideas this evening, on how to do technology right. I'll be pointing out some common mistakes and sharing an approach that lets you take control. I'll be asking you to please don't think too much about technology, and certainly don't worry too much about technology itself. Before we do that, we need to think about the digital value chain. This is the key concept that I want to talk about tonight. By taking a process view of your business idea, instead of a technological view, you'll be able to discover your real needs, schedule projects for the real world, and be able to manage your very, very real technology costs. And like all good presentations, I want to start out by scaring you. Be scared, be very, very scared. There's lots of articles out there and analysts that talk in terms of $500 billion wasted every year on technology, wasted on ambition without control. As entrepreneurs, they dive in at the deep end and drown in the complexity of their technology projects. To put that in context, $500 billion, that's the amount of money equal to the GDP of countries like Sweden or Poland. And here's a few signs that that maybe you're wasting the GDP of a small country, but certainly here are some signs that you might be wasting your money on technology. And I've certainly seen too many projects like this, and very keen to try and avoid that again. So folks, they tend to pay too much money up front without the confidence of a shared vision of all the stakeholders, internal and external, in the vision of the project. We see people waiting way too long before they get anything meaningful from the developers. And when they do get something, it's very different from their expectations. So let's try to avoid that. And a few watchwords to help folks swim safely in the exciting shark tank of technology projects. Ideally, we should be turning that shark tank into a dolphinarium. But fundamentally, just know that technology itself will not save the day. It's what you do with technology that matters. So let's get the business idea right first. I want you to be aware of competing agendas of developers. We need to stay in control. We need to drive with your business idea and not be swayed, by the features that we don't need, expenses that add no value, or the distractions, or the nice sounding distractions of our developers, unless they add value. There might not be a reason for them. Perfectionism, that's very much the enemy as well. That may be a paradox, but I want you to focus on the core essence of the business idea. I want you to focus on the core proof concept first, before diving in and thinking about every feature, every function, every detail. Let's focus on the POC first. Let's get that right first. Before we go any further, maybe I should tell you a little bit myself. Maybe I should tell you who I am and why maybe you might like to think about trusting anything that I might have to say. From an early age, I actually ran in my teens and 20s, actually, because I'm not that old. I ran video game development shops, first off in the UK, and then I moved over to California in my 20s. Had lots of fun there doing video games on PlayStation, Nintendo, and the like. I then came back to Europe, did my MBA, and ended up in Singapore, running various development studios in Southeast Asia. And for the last 10 years, we've had our own studio here in beautiful Vietnam. Along the way, we've been involved in many fun projects, working with partners in marketing, government, and businesses and startups. Been involved in quite a few awards. Been a real honour to be associated with some cool people, working on award-winning projects, helping out on some interesting patents, and participating, contributing to some quite interesting commercial successes. Most recent project, nice one we got going, is very much in the telehealth area. I think we're operating something like 1,000 digital consults every day right now from a number of digital clinics, digital studios in the telehealth and related spaces all around the world. Projects have had very many different challenges, different business goals, and different technologies that we've been playing with, but all had one thing in common, and this is what I enjoyed, is getting into the heads of real people, be they the game designers with their interactive visions, be they creative directors with a desire to communicate brand values to populations and get them to spend the money, be even the bureaucrats or the governments that we've been working with, are my favourite, the long-haired, wild-eyed entrepreneurs with their startups. And what I think I've learned a little bit about along the way is how to build bridges between their wonderfully complex and creative worlds, very often the human worlds, and our digital world, the ones and zeros, our world of technology. So I've learned a little on how not to waste money as we work together to design successful money-making machines. And I want to dwell on that. I want to pause for a second and let that phrase sink in. Money-making machines. Is that why we're here? Yes, it's certainly what I see as my job to help build and make successful money-making machines. But enough about me. It's time to kiss and control. So essential to not wasting money is to keep it simple and stay in control. Keeping it simple does not mean stupid. It can mean powerful. And it does mean defining the most accurate and simple expression of the business idea. We really like that. Staying in control means to not blindly trust. Developers and tech suppliers that we work with, they're not always aligned to our business success. They want to line their own pockets, and they don't really have too much incentive to make your idea work. There's an old joke. I mean, it's not a joke, it's a sad joke, it's a reality. What do bad lawyers and bad engineers have in common? You pay them money, they get you into deeper trouble, and then you have to pay them more money to get you out of that trouble. If you get it wrong at the beginning, you end up in a whole bunch of trouble. So let's try to get things right first. So let's control and lead with a simple and powerful business idea that everyone can get behind. I find the best way to do this is to be clear about how the business works. Not all as simple as it sounds, but let's be specific about the main processes and their goals and expectations of all the stakeholders in the project. Let's be clear up front. And as we embark on this journey, don't assume that others have the same knowledge as you do, because assumptions are deadly, And if you simply trust others to fill in the details without giving them a good brief, then who's to know where we can end up? So be simple, but work hard, get a good brief going. Because to be honest, organizing stuff and confirming schedules is the biggest challenge I find in software engineering. We need to understand that a well-defined schedule is the outcome of a good design progress. They can rarely be imposed. That's just managerial wishful thinking. Let's put design in context. This here little diagram illustrates my own patented 4 Ds of software development. So we've got design, develop, debug, and deploy. And we need to think about, it's always good to remember the relative cost of fixing problems, of getting design right in each of these 4 Ds, and how we keep these costs under control. To do this, I want to share two important ideas that we should all use to manage our development schedules. Idea 1 is the very simple but powerful concept of left shifting. It's a fact that things get more and more expensive to fix things the longer you wait. The worst case, perhaps, is having to go back to the drawing board just as we're about to deploy a software solution to market. Worst case, money wasted down the drain, what have you. So we have to design well, design well first to avoid this. Spend our money when it's cheap on the design phase. Get that right. In all my years, I've developed a few phrases, a few ready reckoners. Says like half of the schedule, maybe a quarter of the budget needs to be spent on design. Finding the balance is hard. But again, I always like to say that when you have completed design, look at it again. No project, in my life ever, probably wouldn't have benefited from more time spent on design. That really is powerful. It really is true to today. Design is, if not everything, it's really, really important. But what about when you can't imagine every design detail? The obvious answer is to break things down into, or break the mountain down into smaller hills that you can climb. By hills, I mean milestones on the roadmap or releases for the market to play with. I use the word play, coming from the world of video games. I find that playing is so much more meaningful than phrases like test the product. Let's play with the product. Let's really get in amongst its features, play with it, learn it well, hopefully be entertained and have fun with it. Even if you do think that you can design every detail, I really strongly advise doing too much up front. I strongly advise the temptation to build castles in the sky. These castles, they always come tumbling down when the first real customer comes along to play. Any questions so far? Any comments? Anything I can say to the audience, my friends?
Yes, we have one question from Tom. Tom, thank you for your question. And it goes, if paying too much upfront without the confidence of shared vision is a common mistake, as you mentioned before, what is the best way to go about the payment?
Deliverables. Repeating that word gives me enough time to think. Let's be clear upon deliverables. Let's be clear with our briefs as to what those deliverables are. Let's engage, let's excite our developers with a clear vision of what they have to do to get paid. Defining that brief, defining the deliverables is a negotiation. It's not just a negotiation, it's a coming together around a shared vision. Don't go off half-cock, don't just throw some money at them hoping for something. Work with them carefully. As we just talked about, spend some time, get the design right, get that brief right. Hopefully people can really buy into your objective, and we'll be very happy to dive into that project if we've got the brief right, if they've got a clear sense of expectations, what they should deliver, and how they can earn the money. So briefs and deliverables. Does that answer your question? Get that right?
Yeah, Tom, let us know if that answers your question. And we have another question. How do you best present your vision as a business person to the developer? Is it a deck or talking things through step by step?
Oh, in all my experience, in all my years, I got a phrase. I don't care whether or what medium you want to use to share your vision, to discuss the project. It can be carrier pigeon, a fax machine, a PDF, a phone call, a WhatsApp, a Skype, anything to get that conversation going. We love using Google Docs. We love Zoom and all its equivalents. Rich interaction is really good. Make sure that your developers can communicate to you and give you, your vision back. Albeit in their words. Make sure that you have had that communication, you have had that coming together. Use any medium you want, but ultimately you want a set of design documents from your developer that without going into too much techno blah blah blah, should certainly be able to take you through your business idea, show you've got a great understanding of that. So engage any which way you can. That's the goal, that's the outcome. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We have another question. How do you confirm the quality of the developers if you are working with them for the first time?
That's a hard one. If they can, I go back to the previous question. If they can have a conversation with you, that's really important. If they can show rich understanding, if they can turn around your brief and describe your brief in perhaps technical terms, that's the biggest thing that I would go by. Yes, there's experience. Yes, they have to have experience of the particular technologies that we're talking about. But what's most important is communication. Can you engage? Can you have a rich conversation? Do they have all the skills? There's a concept of the full stack developer, and in my opinion, there are no full stack developers. That means they've got to have experience of all the creative soft skills and design, all the way through the front end, the back end, the database, into the server. There ain't no such thing as a full stack developer these days. Let's make sure we've got a range of developers with all the right skills, but fundamentally, I would urge you to make sure you're really comfortable discussing your business idea, discussing your goals, your expectations, the value exchange with the various stakeholders. They have to be able to share a conversation about your business idea, about your business goals. Otherwise, you're never going to achieve them anyway.
Sure. Thank you. We have a couple of more questions, but I think we're going to wait for the Q&A session at the end, so we can go back to the presentation now. That's okay with you?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to engage in conversation. Let's get to that as fast as possible. When we're talking of managing schedules, or we're talking about complex technology projects, left shifting teaches us that we very much need to be talking about agile too. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase agile, or as I like to say, get to market early, get to market often, because agile will keep us safe. The conversation that you have with the market can be very useful. Marketing deadlines can be very useful. Even if you aren't able to get to market, the exercise itself can be very useful. So the objective here is to get real, to validate what your developers are saying, and to build confidence as you play with real product and what it just might be. At the outset of a new project, for example, I encourage everyone to talk in terms of first feature fragments or a POC to prove the core capability before wasting time on anything else. We tend to look to alpha releases, beta releases, private beta, public beta. And these days we also talk in terms of MVP to get just the minimum required to get to market. And what we're doing here with all these milestones and release plans, etc., is to give ourselves as many steps as possible to visit with the product market fit, very much to stay in control, make sure we're heading in the right direction. And that's, agile. That's very much my interpretation of what agile means in the real world. Do imagine your goal, but start with something that you can design clearly and complete quickly. More requests, add more requests, add more goals as you get confidence, as your vision grows in your team and your working relationships with them. Never let the tiger, a nice picture of a tiger, never let the tiger get away from you. Lose control, and cost, they do start to right shift as opposed to left shift, and it becomes very hard to stop the decline and avoid losing your project. Stay in control. I think I mentioned briefly earlier, but do not worry about technology. Technology is not your job. It's the job of guys like me. I really want you to worry about your product and how it works. This will give you the control and the focus that you need. So to get control, to not worry about technology, and to dive into your digital business strategy and to digitize your business idea, we do need to be talking processes. Processes, they do wonderful things. Processes, they make us money. How do you do that? You might ask. But processes, they take customers, they figure them out, they share value with them, they get them to open up their wallets, and processes encourage folks to tell their friends about our great value proposition. And really they feel the need to repeat their emphasis. Processes acquire customers, they develop a profile, they exchange value, they get them to make payments, and they encourage people to go viral. This is what's called, ladies and gentlemen, this is called a value chain, a really, really powerful idea. I love processes. I get really excited about processes. I am that sad. I love talking about them. They're the gears that do the work of your business. They come together and they make your money-making machine, they make it work. There's that phrase again, money-making machine. Let's not be afraid of it. Let's embrace it. Let's recognize that's what we're here for. Every unique business has its own combination of processes that represents its distinct digital strategy. Indeed, and I will strongly argue, the best way to digitize your business idea and to describe it in terms that anyone should be able to understand is to develop its digital value chain, dig deeper into all the components. With processes, you've got the perfect language to describe your value chain and your customer experiences. You help identify the technological capabilities and the digital assets that you need to acquire to make it work. Having done all that, maybe I'll let you get your hands dirty and talk technology. But wouldn't we rather work on a well thought out blueprint of your money-making machine and pass to engineers? They can make it happen for you instead. So how? As we say in Singapore, the fundamentals of your business idea, they need to be clear before you spend a penny on technology. Ideas are free. Let's explore them and think carefully to develop a process framework and how our business idea really works or should really work. Talking about money, designers are cheap. We can work with them to help visualize our ideas because good engineers are expensive and we don't want to waste their time. So mistakes cost us dearly. We need to think before we can leap. And let's digitize business ideas, maybe together. Get those ideas right first. That'll make our project much more. That'll give our project much greater chance of success. Thank you very much for listening. Are you there, Kaia?
We can start our Q&A session. I'm so sorry, guys, about our little internet problem here. It's not going to happen again, I promise. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. Are you ready to answer, Ian? We're still thinking if that's.
I've got my coffee or I've got my whiskey. I'm ready for anything.
Exactly. Okay, so a question from Andrew. How to start designing the value chain? And should it be approached from a business point of view or maybe UX user flow point?
There's like two questions, quite different questions. You're cheating, Andy, you're cheating. I think I know who you are. Designing the value chain or the digital value chain. I gave you Michael Porter, 1985, quintessential book on strategy. Talks very much about value chains and 5 forces. I'm sure anyone that's been to university or business school talks about value chains and 5 forces. That's essentially what we're trying to do here, is really understand, to digitize the value chain, to figure out how the business works. Really important, because computers and frankly software engineers also don't know much about the real world. We have to digitize things in order to figure things out, in order to develop the systems for our money-making machines. The approach I take is very much to figure out not so much a linear value chain, but a hierarchy of processes to help describe the business idea. And I find that really, really powerful to help describe, to help think things through, and to help communicate to everyone how the software platform should work. What was the second part of the question, sorry?
Was if it should be approached from a business point of view or UX user flow point?
Oh, yes. Give myself more time to think, thank you. The inclination of too many people is to think about your users and be kind to them and friendly and give them everything they want, and you end up, not thinking from the business point of view. Think clearly about the business idea, then we'll know the value exchange inherent in the business idea, and we'll be able to design the user experience with that value exchange, with that business idea very much in mind. So yes, make sure that we design with all their concerns, all their requirements in mind. But let's lead them through a workflow that represents the value exchange, that represents the business idea. Business has to come first. Let's be clear about what we want to do and design the UX to allow our stakeholders, our customers, to do that easily, friendly, fun, intuitively. Maybe they become addicted to it, or certainly enjoy sharing that value with us. So business should always lead, but then be careful, be happy, share good value, and make our designs friendly and fun to use as well. Business first.
Cool, thank you. So a couple of questions more from Hannah. Waiting way too long for anything. I guess she's addressing your presentation, the first part. But especially working remotely and outsourcing the dev team, how can I motivate them to deliver on time?
Not sure if I've touched upon this, but money. Give them money. Give them money when they deliver. So deliverables. Make sure they're happy with the deliverables. Make sure they're happy with their goals. Make sure they know the milestones. Make sure you've discussed things through ahead of time. Be clear. I said before, and I'll see it again, and I'll see it many times again. Get the design right. Make sure everyone's got a rich and full understanding of that. The entrepreneur, the business owner will understand it from a business point of view, what business expectations are. Make sure that your engineers agree with ideally short-term technology goals or product goals. Have them focus on that, have them focus on milestones one step at a time, and give them money or promise them money when they deliver just that, nothing else. Control, stay in control, use a roadmap of well-defined deliverables, if that makes sense.
I think it does, yeah, and I think the presentation that I will send over to Hannah later will help her out as well. So next question is from Eunice. I hope I said it right. How would you structure the contract with the developers?
There are standard contracts out there. There's so many online forums or repositories of contracts. I've used a few of them. I've got one that I use myself that I've evolved over the years. But very much it's about being clear about the expectations and the deliverables. More and more we're seeing longer term relationships where our developers get some equity or get some upside in the project as well. And I find that's a really good way to motivate for the long term. Make sure that they do think about your business goals rather than just delivering, a piece of technology in the short term. Technology that they're delivering may or may not match your business goals. Let's try and enforce that by making sure that they get some of their reward upon ultimate long-term success, encourage them to put some skin in the game. That might not be answering your question about the contract, but certainly from our relationship point of view, long-term relationship, skin in the game, really makes sense.
Okay, we have one more question from Sakbi. So hoping he's saying it right. And also we received a similar question before the webinar. Basically, what kind of business ideas are you looking for? What services your studio can achieve? What business partnership model are you working with? And basically, how can you work with startups? So how can you help out startups and businesses?
So many questions. Let me answer. Let me rephrase them to show that I understand. Let me answer two of those. Given, this is ego talking, but given experience in governments, games, marketing solutions, working with entrepreneurs, there's not a lot that I'm afraid of these days in terms of verticals or areas of focus. So I'm happy to talk about any project. But my own particular interest right now is back to the idea of digital clinics. We talked earlier about a number of telehealth projects that we've got going on, but I'm happy to expand that general idea into the online provision of professional services. If we recognize that last 20 years, I still remember when Amazon launched. 20 years later, one of the biggest, if not the biggest company in the world, certainly the wealthiest man in the world, I think, has come from the world of e-commerce. I'm thinking the e-services and e-consulting, and into that we can include, telehealth and yoga studios and the provision of professional services online. I think that's a really big growth area, and I'm very interested in that business model. I'm very interested in the technology that can deliver, remote services, digital clinics. Very interested in doing that, and I'm building some core elements of that kind of platform. So I'm quite keen to talk to entrepreneurs that think or that we can discover have got similar interests in digital clinic. Let's say digital clinics, studios, telehealth, what have you. Lots of opportunities in that space. Quite keen to partner in building those kind of solutions, and ideally getting a chunk of the long term, because that's very much something that I think can be very successful in this part of the 21st century. Does that answer your question?
I think it did. Please let us know if any more details on that. One more question also that we got before the webinar was, what was the time frame to develop an app?
Some principles that I raised earlier kind of imply make it as short as you can. The bigger the vision, the bigger the project, the longer you go between getting into, between thinking about it and getting it to market, the more chance you have of failure, of digression, or pivoting away from where you really need to be. So let's talk in terms of, let's say, a 3-month schedule, and as much as a month let's say a month on design, a month on design, a month on development, a month on debug and deployment, the 4 Ds of the software development lifecycle. It may well be that you don't achieve all your goals in those 2 or 3 months, but let's take the opportunity to test things out as early as possible. Let's do a POC in 2 or 3 months, then let's go for more and more releases, maybe closer together to keep us in touch with the market. But yeah, I don't want to go longer than that without really getting confidence of the market, without getting confidence even of internal testing that we're getting it right. Agile has been invented for a reason, and it's very much to keep us on the straight and narrow. So let's not go too long before we can take things to market. And sorry, I repeat myself, I know, but it's getting late.
Okay, and
anything else tonight?
Yeah, somebody says you only answered the first question, so I guess you didn't really address what services your studio can achieve and what business partnership model are you working with. So maybe you can expand a little bit on that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Second part of that. My own personal business model has changed over the years from being a pure agency type model to one where I don't really have any clients anymore. I am only looking for long-term partnerships where there's a mix of cash and equity in the game. We've had our successes. We've got grey hairs here, so we don't need to pay for diapers and milk anymore. We're very much looking for that long-term participation in projects. As long as we can cover our costs, I'm very happy to take a little bit of risk. I'm very happy to dive into the project, take some ownership, not only of the idea, but ideally of the business itself, if that's available, because we are very much motivated for success in the long term. Does that answer part two a little bit better?
Hopefully. So we have time for one more question. If anyone type fast.
They're coming thick and fast.
Yes, cool. So that answered the second and the third question.
All good. I've really enjoyed the questions. I'm excited to be engaging this way. Thank you very much for putting it all together, Kaia.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for all people who joined us today. So cool to see us all coming together. Yeah, I didn't see any more questions. So thank you again, and we will send you the recording from this webinar shortly. And please contact us with any more questions to Ian. I think he will be happy to answer. He will be happy to catch up and chat with you all.
Whiskey or coffee? Have a good night, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are.